Hey everybody, it's Max J. Miller, co-author with Robert Hollis of the upcoming How Is That Working? And yesterday I was sharing with you a little bit about this book I've been reading, Mindsight by Daniel Siegel. It's a great read. He's a great storyteller, actually. He's a psychiatrist and a neurologist, studies neurology, and he's really writing about this cutting-edge technology, what we've learned from functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, which has allowed us to study, not me, but allowed scientists to study the functioning of the brain in real time, not like, just slices and dices of cadavers' brains, but real living people as they solve problems and work on things. They can actually observe which areas of the brain are firing and so forth. And so yesterday I was talking about his three driving principles, and the second one was this idea that how we focus our attention shapes the structure of the brain. And I was saying that the gurus, success gurus and personal development kind of mentors and whatnot have been saying this all along, that if you really focused your attention in the right ways, you could see a shift over time, and that we could actually change habits and so forth. And some part of us, we all know that's somehow true, but there's a part of us that's so resigned and doesn't believe that we can really accomplish that kind of fundamental change in us. But what they're telling us is, in terms of the brain, it certainly can happen. He goes on to say, this is another quote, he says, one of the key practical lessons of modern neuroscience is that the power to direct our attention has within it the power to shape our brain's firing patterns, as well as the power to shape the architecture of the brain itself. He says, we can use the power of our mind to change the firing patterns of our brain and thereby alter our feelings, our perceptions, and our responses. Like, not just in this moment, but as we go along in life, those can be altered as a result of our experience. And this is what I was saying, Robert has been saying, is that you can actually change how life shows up for you. The old, is the glass half empty or is the glass half full? And so he says now there are some conditions that actually facilitate or support this, what they call neuroplasticity, this ability for us to adapt and for our brain to rewire. And he says a lot about it, obviously, in here. And the second half of the book is all very practical about how to apply some of these ideas. But he says that under the right conditions, neurofiring can lead to the strengthening of synaptic connections, these sort of brain patterns that govern behavior. These conditions include, obviously, repetition, right? That seems like the most obvious one in terms of developing these new pathways, new brain patterns. But he says also emotional arousal, novelty, so if something's new, and we've kind of known about that, and then and also the careful focus of attention. So these things, and he expands on that in the book, and he's talking about how there's sort of a mechanism of how we fall into a pattern of sort of routine and mindlessness, about how we're just not really all that self-aware. And if you've listened to other of my videos, you know that I've talked a lot about how the wisdom literature, Shakespeare and the Proverbs writers in the Bible and so forth, so many sources tell us that the key to wisdom is really understanding ourselves, is really having insight into who we are and kind of telling the truth to ourselves. To thine own self be true, and hence shall follow as night the day thou canst not be false toward any man. I'm getting an "anst" or something in there wrong, but the gist of it is be true to yourself, and you'll be true to others. That was Shakespeare, and the Delphic Oracle, a great wisdom tradition of ancient Greece. There was a gateway, and as you walked towards the oracle through the gateway, it said right above it, "Know thyself." That was the bit of wisdom that everyone got as they walked through the Delphic Oracle. So it's a long-standing tradition to say, that the key to wisdom is knowing, understanding oneself and telling the truth about oneself. So he says he talks about this kind of pattern that we have that sort of pulls us down, and sometimes it's sudden. We have these sort of mental meltdowns, and what he's talking about is how the lower sort of earlier developed parts of our brain can sometimes take over. These are the parts of the brain that are a little more connected to the body and so forth. And it's this expression that we have of someone was out of their mind, and not, we're not talking about somebody who's clinically, mentally disabled or whatever. No, we're talking about just everyday life, how somebody who can say, wow, he really lost his mind there. Well, in a way, that's an accurate description, according to these scientists, of what actually happens to us sometimes, is that we actually lose control over the flow of information and energy, as that's how Daniel Siegel describes what the mind is, in part. And so when you don't have that control, he says, it's this frontal cortex that is actually controlling, or has the capacity to control the flow of energy and information, and it sometimes gets overrun by these signals from the body, from fear. And he says on some level that's probably helpful. He gives this example of walking along on a trail, and before one is consciously aware of any kind of danger, there's a sensation of danger. But then only after that sensation stopped the person in their tracks and they stepped back did they actually observe that there was a snake in their trail. And he says that phenomena is because there's a part of the brain that actually can communicate danger faster than the sort of logical part of our brain. And so that's, is a natural function, but sometimes that fear overruns us. And of course that's what Robert's been talking about so much in our book as well, is how we get run by our fears and so forth. So anyway, I'm going to continue to share just a little bit out of this one more night, I think, one more day. And thanks for tuning in. Keep telling your story. I look forward to hearing feedback from you. Bye-bye for now.